Hello and welcome to Drive-In Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into this week's episode, head on over to our Patreon. We just did a flick chart episode. That was a lot of fun if you want to hear us fight about movies. If you want to hear about us fight, just as an update, Ryan, last time you said that we weren't talking outside the podcast, and that's still happening. We still don't talk to each other. So it's nice to just meet back up with you after all this time, I guess.
Well, nice is not the word I would describe, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to be courteous for the podcast, which you don't seem to understand, but we don't have to talk about it.
I like being honest with our audience, Nathan. I'm sorry.
I don't trust any of my opinions. Speaking of which, let's head on into this Tuesday's episode where we talk about The Way of the Gun from the year 2000. I'm going to read the Wikipedia genre description because I think it's kind of funny. This is an American neo-Western heist action thriller film directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who you might know as the director of the recent Mission Impossible movies. But this is his first ever movie, and he had just written Usual Suspects, directed by a true gem of a person. So,
Who?
you know... I'm forgetting his name, actually. It's escaping me.
I feel like somebody else was starring in that movie. What's that person?
Wow, that movie is just like a storm of people we shouldn't name. But The Way of the Gun is actually a recommended movie from my uncle Josh. He recommended it a while ago, so sorry for the wait, but we are talking about it today. I knew nothing about this movie going in. I thought it was a gun fu movie, kind of like The Matrix or something, where they're doing tricks and shooting. It's not really that kind of movie. Just like the description of the genre says, it's a heist movie where we follow 2 bad guys played by Ryan. How do you say his last name?
Phillippe.
Okay, Ryan Phillippe and Benicio del Toro, who was in The Usual Suspects, and Benicio, I don't think he's done anything wrong yet. So
yeah,
we're that we know of.
We're watching Benicio.
We got our eyes on you. But this movie is just kind of about bad dudes, and I read about a little bit of the production of this movie, and I guess Christopher McQuarrie kind of had some issues finding work in Hollywood, so he just wrote a script. And he wanted to write a script that was anti-Hollywood, would be despicable. And you know what? That movie got made. It got $8 million budget-wise, and then it made $13 million. So it's one of those, like, kind of, it made its budget back, but it didn't do much else kind of movie.
No.
I hate to say it because this was a recommendation, but I feel like I got to say it off the top because really quickly into this movie, I didn't like this movie. I did not like this movie at all. Like, I actually kind of hated it.
Well, this may surprise you. I thought it was a really interesting take on the heist thriller genre. I thought maybe if they added the neo-noirness to it, and at the end of the day, it's not very good. It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad, right? Yeah. I get what they're going for here, but so hear me out. So you don't have to have a movie with likable characters. You don't. But when a movie has an unlikable set of characters and it wants you to root for them, and by the end of the movie, it wants you to be like, oh, let's redeem these people. They actually weren't bad the whole time. Then you're kind of drawing like a nerve, or hitting a nerve there that I don't really like.
Well, I mean, like at the very beginning of this movie, it's already like they have no problem having you being like, oh no, these 2 characters are scumbags, because how it happens is like they're leaning on somebody's car or something, or they're sitting on it, and like the other guy's like, hey, get off my car, and his girlfriend, played by Sarah Silverman.
What a cameo. Was that a cameo in 2000?
Probably not. That was probably just
her getting a role.
Yeah, just working. But
from Maestro.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's Bradley Cooper was a big fan of the Gun. But But yeah, you watch the scene and they're like, "Hey, get out of my car!" And then like they start yelling at each other, and she starts saying like the F word, like and everything, and then all of a sudden, they Brian Phillippe just like cold cocks her like right in the face, just like it
Yeah.
just
And this is all while he's dropping the C word call over and over
he
and over.
he was pounding her too, like
Yeah.
pounding her in the face. It wasn't like just one punch.
Oh
So it
yeah.
was just, and so I'm like, okay, these guys are terrible people. But then, you're right. It kind of wants you to root for them. And
Yeah.
not that that's not a movie hasn't done that already, but I'm like, I got to see some redeemable qualities in these people for
Mm-hmm.
me to latch on to, like, oh, they're really good at their job, or
Mm-hmm.
they're, so cerebral, or they're such geniuses that, it's like, oh, it's enough to admire. But no, these guys are not very good criminals either.
No, yeah, that's the thing. It sounds interesting. It's a movie called The Way of the Gun. You think it would be about like a couple of criminals, because in the beginning he's like talking about like when you take this life of crime, then you have no possessions. This is what you do. It almost sounds like a samurai in a way, but it has none of like the intelligence of that. These two are really bumbling idiots, and like one of the first things they do in this movie is they go to a sperm bank, and he says that you can make $3,000 at a sperm bank, and I'm pretty sure that's for a one-time deposit. That's not true, but whatever. We'll just go. We'll go from there. And we get another like this is part of the introduction process, right? And he gets asked if he's had sex with another man, and he's like, What are you calling me?" And he uses the F slur, and he keeps saying
Yeah.
over and over. And it's 2000, right? That word was still never was okay to say, but people were still using it. It's very prominent in music and
Mm-hmm.
everything. There's still something about it that just feels like hateful. And it's like, it doesn't feel like the character saying this. It feels like the writer, like, oh, I just really want to put this word in my movie.
Because he says it multiple times and multiple characters say it. So
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not just that one character. So it really does feel like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so edgy. Like this is I am
Yeah.
pushing some boundaries here.
Yeah, and I think that's why I don't like movies that are overly edgy like that. It just kind of has a weird sense to it. Because like Benicio del Toro is also getting interviewed, and he's like, "Oh, I've never had sex with a dead body," and it's like, "Oh, okay." I don't get how that's really funny.
There's so many points in this movie. Like there's not one character in here that I cared for. Maybe Juliette Lewis is like the
Yeah,
only redeem. She's the only redeemable character in
well,
this
yeah,
movie.
she has a decent arc. I actually think James Caan is good. I kind of not
Yeah.
maybe not his character, but his performance is good. Um, because our main character, Ryan Phillippe, I also just don't think his performance is really good. He's got an accent going on that I just don't think really works.
No.
Yeah, and I think that doesn't help. Benicio del Toro, usually pretty good. He doesn't really do anything here. He's playing the quiet type, and it just gives him less of a character.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't really feel like, you're James Caan, like, I do feel like he was trying when he was acting, but everyone
Mhm.
else, it really, like, everyone had these real monotone kind of personalities. Like, it's just
Mhm.
very bland. And I think that was kind of like the way, like, oh, well, we'll just have everybody speak in the same manner. Nobody's really gonna emote or anything like that. And just, it'll be like its own little world that we're setting up here. And,
Yeah.
but it felt like they were going for that sort of like angle or that sort of mood. So, but for me, it was not clicking at all, because it's like having the opposite effect to me, like I said, where I can't relate to any of these characters, and
Hmm.
just the dialogue. Like they dump like so much exposition in
Yes.
the dialogue too. Like there's so many plot points that are revealed and just very uninteresting ways too. And I'm
Dude, yeah. This movie's boring on top of just kind of being poorly made. It's like you said, it's exposition dumping, and like it's just the pacing of it is just really poorly done. There will be action, which I will have to give it to McQuarrie. You can kind of see where he's going to go with Mission Impossible on these, but in between that, it's a lot of like just dialogue in a house that's just like, let me tell you the plot. It's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's the only time I mean that's one of the few positives I can give this movie is that the final action scene was decent. It was a pretty
Yeah.
good action scene. And like you said, it kind of is understandable. It's like, okay, well, at least he leaned more into his strengths. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm not going to be writing, like, I'm not going to be the next Tarantino here or anything, and write my own opus of a script. And now let me just lean into like people doing a bunch of like cool stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's I agree. It's which is good. He figured out what worked here. And I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I guess going into like critical reception, it did get mixed reviews, and I don't see a lot of the love for this movie. I think I don't even think it really, I wouldn't call it a cult status movie, but I'm sure it has its fans, obviously.
Shout out to your uncle.
Shout out, which I do want to say, I'm sorry. I do have to be honest. I don't want to come in here and like praise a movie that was recommended just because it's recommended. I know at the top I was like, I'm not an honest man, but I want to try my best.
Or does
And
that mean you secretly liked it?
no, I hated this movie. No, it was dog crap. No.
He's winking into the camera, everybody.
Hey, they can't see that. Don't say what happens on camera. If for all they know, we're just two black screens talking at each other.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but no, I was really, I mean, I gave it a fair shot. I feel like, I mean, because I was in there, I was in the moment, but I mean, I'm not gonna lie though, it lost me pretty quickly, and
yeah, it did. Yeah, no, it was crazy that sperm donation scene. I was like, oh, I don't know about this one, and then and then it starts to go downhill really fast.
yeah, and I would just like to hear you try to explain all the other stuff that happens in this movie.
I'm gonna try. There are plot points in this that have no bearing on the rest of the plot. But so when they're in the sperm bank, in the background they hear that Juliette Lewis, who is a surrogate mother for a rich guy, is getting paid $1 million to have a baby for them. So they're like, okay, we're going to go ahead and kidnap her and take the money. What they find out quickly after that is that when they kidnap her, they don't really care. So it's like I don't get it. I don't get it at all. But they're willing to kill the baby, and it's like, oh well, they just don't want to lose, so they'll just kill me right here. But it doesn't really feel like that, because like then the main guy, who's like, come to find out, is a crime lord, of course, is like, no, I need that baby at all costs. So I don't understand it.
Well, yeah, because when they're having like the kidnapping scene, they kind of have a standoff, and like you said, you think that their main priority is keeping her and the baby safe, but they're like, no, we don't care, and they don't care if they just don't want to lose, like you said, and then they point their guns at her stomach.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Like, I was confused in that point. I'm like, I don't understand what the whole point is, because then it's revealed too, because one of the bodyguards is actually having an affair with the rich guy's wife.
And that's
And
right. Yeah, which I don't think is important to the plot, except for the very end stinger of the movie.
yeah,
Yeah, but that, I really didn't like that part of the movie because it felt so pointless, because he's like, he goes up to her, the I guess he's a money launderer is what he is, for like, he's just a crime lord of some type. But there's like a whole side scene where they're romantically talking to each other, and it just ends up being pointless.
he's like, oh, I'll just go. Like the whole point is he does want Juliette Lewis to die, so that way he can like steal the wife and run off with her.
Yeah. And so it starts this dynamic because the bodyguards come in and we're looking for him. James Caan shows up and is a bag man for the crime lords. He's going after them along with this old man who it was attempting to kill himself. What an elaborate way to try to kill yourself, where he loaded one gun, threw it in a bag of guns, and then sifted around and picked a gun to shoot himself with. I can't believe that. It's like some freaky Russian roulette.
It's a slow night.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it felt like, because he got a call and he's like, "Yeah, I'll help you out." So he's in on this. And then is anyone else looking for them at some? I think that's it.
Well, I think, yeah, because they when they kidnap her, she's having some complications, like she starts bleeding.
That's right.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, we got to get a doctor," and they find her gynecologist and kidnap him.
Yeah, which is
go ahead.
No, I mean, were you going to explain what the gynecologist, that whole plot line?
Well, yeah, because like then it's like, because you think originally like this gynecologist is just a doctor and he's just caught in the middle of this whole thing, but then it's revealed that he's actually the billionaire's son, and you know, he didn't want to be a part of this at all. And then it's revealed later in the movie that he's the one that got Juliette Lewis pregnant.
Yeah, okay. So this was kind of a twist that I think is all right, and if it was in a better movie, it would play better. But yeah, he's slept with Juliette Lewis and their baby. That's their baby, because I guess his wife's egg didn't take or something, or sorry, his sperm didn't take, or something happened that it was like, okay, she needed the money, so she's willing to sleep with him. The one thing I found annoying about this character was like the whole Baltimore thing that kept popping up, and it's like, we won't let Baltimore happen again. And that just keeps getting brought up, and with no explanation. It's like, yeah, you know what happened in Baltimore really sucked. It's like, okay, I don't care.
I think you need to read between the lines.
No. Maybe that's a lot of this movie.
You just don't get it, Nathan.
I don't. And see, I'm willing to take like somebody tell me what happened, but it definitely felt like a movie that like maybe I just got so bored that when they were doing these exposition drops that a lot of it went over my head. But it was kind of a difficult movie to watch.
Like I said, this one lost me kind of early, so this was a really hard watch to get through, just mostly because I was pretty uninterested during the whole thing. But you know, I was picking up on most of it.
Yeah, because it does kind of get in a pretty good spot. Benicio del Toro, and his Ryan Phillippe. What a name.
Not
Phillippe. Oh God, I can't. Why can't it just be Phillips? Like, come on, get your name changed, buddy. It's Hollywood. But anyway, they take Juliette Lewis to a motel, and they kind of have her kidnapped, and she ends up calling the police. And I actually thought this was an interesting scene because they do have a shotgun set up and it's a trap. But while they're gone, Juliette Lewis takes the shotgun and she's waiting at the door, and they're both trying to get in, and she's got the shotgun pointed. She's like, "The cops are coming. I will shoot you if I see you." And I thought that was pretty fun. But before this, Benicio del Toro and James Caan meet up, and they kind of have a dialogue about how crime has changed. Oh, it's so hard to be a criminal nowadays. Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, I'm like, okay, I guess this is supposed to be like a brilliant scene, but it's not.
Yeah, this is like you said, the Tarantino. It definitely feels like like, oh, I can make a movie like Tarantino.
Yeah, I can like, it's the diner scene with like Jules and then he's put all the money out of his wallet and everything. So.
Exactly, except with no interest or stakes at all, because it's a very like side scene, because
because he just shows up out of nowhere because he figures out where they are, and they're just like, he's like, "Oh, don't shoot," and like, "I just want to talk," and then he tells him, he's like, "Hey, I'll give you $1 million if you just walk away right now." He's just like, "Nope, I'm gonna ride this out."
Yep. and then that's what they do, and that they actually run away, and they get picked up. Juliette Lewis gets picked up by the bodyguards, and the bodyguards take them to like this fort in like Mexico, I guess is the best way to explain it. Maybe not like a traditional fort, but it's like it's a set. It's a set piece. It looks like a classic Western like standoff, like 4 awnings around a center plaza. It's a cool looking set, and go ahead.
It was, it reminded me of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, just minus the good.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say. I could kind of see like what they're doing here, but I mean, like Juliette Lewis is having the baby, and just blood is everywhere, and then they have to force a C-section. So the gynecologist has to perform a C-section. They do numb her. That's right. They do numb her at least. But she is screaming. And then all the while this is happening, there is a giant shootout between a bunch of bagmen that show up and our 2 leads. And I do think a lot of this is shot well. There is some interesting bits. Ryan Phillippe.
No, sorry. Phillippe.
Why do I keep saying Phillippe? That's what it looks like. Where's the? Oh my god! He's listening now. He's angry. What is he up to anyway?
I don't know. Being divorced from Reese Witherspoon. Getting money from her.
Like I know this guy. I've seen his face, but I've never like cared to learn his name. And obviously, I still can't be bothered. But he flips over like a wall, and he lands in like glass, and he starts crying, like full on like bawling. And I was like, I kind of like this. I thought it was interesting, but it just came out really weird. Like it was really awkward in the middle of this fight scene.
Yeah, it was. Just seeing a guy just like crying in pain, just like because he sliced his arm up from broken glass.
Yeah. But there's one interesting bit where like Juliette Lewis is delivering the baby, and everyone seems to just keep walking into where she's delivering the baby and then just leaving. James Caan shows up, looks at her, and is like, "Oh God," and leaves. But that's because later on we find out he's her father, which is I think is supposed to be the script thinks it's a bigger twist than it is, because I think like Benicio del Toro, someone says, "Oh, you can always tell a grandfather." And it's like, oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on, like, I was already like checked out at that point.
Really? Yeah, you didn't. What? Okay, you would have liked the movie if you knew the twist. Okay.
Yeah, I need to go back. I need to go back and watch it. Darn it.
Watch, I'm like completely wrong or something, and then
no, you're probably right. I don't doubt it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's kind of both of our leads. They don't die; they just get shot in the legs, and they're left to die because the ambulance shows up, paramedics get her, and just leave them to bleed to death. In Mexico they don't have the Hippocratic oath or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're bad guys, hospitals don't treat you in Mexico.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't think they were a bad guy because it shows them laying there dying, and the camera backs out, and it's like it says
they protected the baby. They're good guys.
Yeah, it's like we protected the baby. We needed our redemption. We didn't ask for it, but we're given it, or some crap like that. I was so like, no, these guys were not likable.
I was like, yeah, this does not redeem them in any sort of way.
It doesn't, especially because the scene before that, they're like have this dude in this torture device with like barbed wire on his hands and legs, doing horrible stuff. And like, I'm like, no, they are not redeemed. I think that was really the nail in the coffin. It's like, we're not looking at characters like bad characters that may be redeemable. Doesn't have to be that, but don't ask me to like these characters. Don't ask me in the end to be like, oh, these guys, they really weren't that bad, when no, they were pretty bad. So
just a couple of bad dudes.
Yeah, the game's better. Bad dude. I'm pretty sure this originally was a Bad Dudes adaptation.
It probably would have been better, but
Yeah.
I no, but yeah, no, I like I said, I was just mentally just kind of checked out from this movie by the end of it. I mean, I got what they were trying to go for, I feel like, but it just was not connecting with me at all.
Yeah.
And I I guess it just to reiterate my feelings, I did not really like this movie at
Mhm.
all. It I don't know. I really feel like this was a pretty weak first movie for him. Like, when you see a movie
Mhm.
like this, it's like because he writes the scripts for a lot of his movies too, even like right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And then if you read like a script like this, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see some blueprints in here for Mission Impossible or whatever. But
Yeah.
it hats off to him though for getting better. I'll say that
He did get better, but then again, he didn't direct another movie for another 12 years. So like
for
he did,
good reason.
yeah, for I think so. And maybe he needed a little time. He wrote a few scripts in between there, but one of them was The Tourist, which I don't think people like that movie either.
Oh,
Right?
who's in that one?
That's the Angelina Jolie Johnny Depp movie.
No,
Not
I know.
Tom Cruise movie. Oh.
I I just wanted you to say Johnny Depp. Okay.
Oh no, I don't, we're not allowed to say his name. Um, but yeah, like I said, I've been saying it this whole time. Really didn't like this one, which sucks. I will say, as always, thank you for the recommendation. I'm happy I saw it so I can have an informed opinion on it. I think that's what's most important.
Well,
Um,
yeah, of all those questions you get about Way of the Gun.
yeah. Yeah, well, maybe one day, I'll be like, "What's your opinion on the Way of the Gun?" And then I'll point them
I'm
to
like,
this episode.
well,
Yeah, but it is what it is. I do not recommend this one. I don't think you really should check this one out.
no, it's not a recommend for me. I mean, there's a lot more interesting uh neo noir heist thriller movies out there.
Yes, I agree. I agree. All right, well then that wraps it up for this one. But Ryan, what are we going to be covering on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're going to be talking about the movie The Sniper, and that is on. Well, I guess it's not on Tubi right now, so you're gonna have to find it somewhere else. But it was on Tubi, so you should have watched it on Tubi when you had the chance.
Yeah, you should always be watching whatever's leaving their library.
I do.
Yeah, days and days of movies. But no, I'm excited to watch that. But if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to email us. Let us know how you felt about it. Also, recommend us anything. You can also tweet at us over at X, Twitter, whatever the hell, at DIDF Pod. You can check us out on YouTube. We got a lot of places you can watch and listen to us. But until next time.
Until next time.